This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish, the hottest show in the lacrosse world. I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, Director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. Our producer is Mike Wallace. And if you're just joining us, right, if you weren't with us last week, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, you missed a big announcement. We announced that Keith and I are committing to becoming lacrosse fans. And that announcement was posted on the Lacrosse Sports Network, which is obviously a parent company to us here with FTF for the fans. And look, we expected that this news would make waves. But Keith Strudler, I don't know if even we thought that tens of people would have utter indifference toward our announcement.
Yeah, I mean, we were reticent to make this move because we weren't sure we were worthy. We weren't sure we were ready. The lacrosse community has spoken, and they've spoken loudly, and they've spoken with clicks and eyeballs. And so as far as I can tell, you have invited us, and thank you so much for the generosity of your time and spirit. We accept the challenge. Look, numbers only tell one part of the story, but if YouTube metrics are any indication, our services are wanted and needed. So we are going to be digging in hard and often to this challenge. And look, a year from now, we're going to be very different people than we are today. And I really look forward to the voyage.
Keith and I have spent, really untold minutes this week trying to figure out how to start this journey. And a little bit later in the program, we are going to be joined by the person in our lives that knows the most about lacrosse. And we're going to make an ask of them. We're going to say, look, will you guide us up this mountain that is becoming lacrosse fans? And honestly, look, we don't edit this show at all. I cannot impress upon you how little work we put into this product. So we don't know what he's going to say. We have no idea. You're not watching this live. We record this on Tuesday nights, but this will be live. So You're going to live and die right along with us trying to find some guidance in lacrosse. We'll make sure you stay tuned for that.
It's a lot like the final episode of American Idol. I mean, yes, we experienced it potentially later, but it is absolutely a live experience. The Bachelor, any of those moments where there's anticipation, a lot of suspense, and a lot lies on the outcome of our hopeful Sherpa's decision. And so we're ready to jump on the back of this horse and ride it.
So while those results will be coming up after a couple of breaks, first, we want to talk about baseball. We started this program before it became, I don't want to overstate it, but the most important program in the lacrosse community. Before it became that, this was a show that chronicled America's return to athletic competition during the coronavirus pandemic. Well, Major League Baseball has reported some numbers. They have offered everyone in their on-field personnel tier the opportunity to get a coronavirus vaccine. And they have reported that 70% of those folks, players, coaches, athletic trainers, strength coaches, the people that are on the field with the teams, 70% of those people have received at least one dose. Their magic number, their goal is 85%. This is a situation, Keith, not where they're like asking these people to go out and get their own appointments or talk to their doctor or get a shot on their own. They're saying, hey, you want it, here it is. 7 in 10 have taken them up on the needle. There's a bit of a chasm there between how many are like, sure, I'll take it, I accept, give it to me, and where they want to be, and where scientists, if you believe those people, where they say we need to be to get to herd immunity to end this pandemic. So that's not that encouraging to me.
Well, of course, in baseball, 30% of the time is excellent. So I mean, we look at it from that perspective. This is 70%. You find me someone who's hit 700 and I'll show you a Hall of Famer. And so on one regard, I think they can be very proud of themselves. And yes, you are right. They don't have to go stand in the Livingston, old Sears that they've turned into a med clinic for a couple hours to get the shot. This is what was that? Royal Pains, like the concierge medical. They probably give you a mint and a pillow. And I'll tell you what, someone should have recorded the conversations I've had with both of my nurses when I've got my shot. Of course, I just got my second shot this past weekend. I had a bit of an unfortunate reaction Sunday night, which not surprisingly, no one in this house wanted to hear about. So I'm telling it to you, Sportish viewers.
No one in this house wants to hear about it either. You had the same reaction that 80% of people, I have no idea, I just made that number up. You have the same reaction that a large number of people have had
less than that. Don't scare the public.
Vaccine.
Don't scare the baseball players who are watching.
I don't know the number, but a lot of people have had it. You're not special. You're not special at all, which is something your parents should have told you more of. It would have saved us all a lot of trouble. I am
special, and my reaction means I've got more immunity than you, and you know it.
That's
and
just
you're
wrong. My immune system is iron. I had no reaction at all. I had a slightly sore arm and I was a little tired, which sounds like a regular Thursday in my world. Yeah. And you were on your deathbed and think that you're special.
I was in my final four mode. For those of you that have been longtime listeners of the Keith and Jeff show, I was in my final four mode and I had to pass on eating a Mamoon's falafel that I had just bought. And that really ticked me off. You know what's not good? A day old heated up falafel, because the lettuce is soggy. Like, lettuce is not a product that's meant to be heated up in a microwave. That's why the McDLT was such a phenomenon, such a great McDonald's invention. Hot side hot, cold side cold. That's the holy grail of all burger technology. So it really ruined that. So thanks a lot, Moderna, for that.
Well, first of all, while we're talking to the longtime fans of the Keith and Jeff show, Rob Duffy would agree with you. A day-old falafel is just fine.
Rob Duffy has never met food that's a day old. Don't even start. If you ask Rob about leftovers, his answer would be, "What is that?" Apologies, Rob. I hope you're doing well.
Rob Duffy is an old intern that we had when we had a radio show together, who once literally said that every pizza is a personal pizza. And he meant it.
It fits in a box. It must be a single serving.
Did you say you got your coronavirus vaccine? You got it in an old Sears?
It was an old Sears. Like, they've cleared out, I believe this, Sears, as many have been wanting to do, is out of business. So they just turned it into this clinic. But the conversations I have with the nurses, both of whom have been amazing. I mean, absolutely wonderful. But they open the curtain, you walk in, and before they even get to close the curtain, I'm announcing, I'm the biggest baby you've ever seen. Not that I needed to say it, but I'm like, you don't understand. I was like, you're going to need to talk me down from this. I'm really nervous. If I see the needle, I'm going to scream. I mean, I'm just going through this. And like the fifth time that my last nurse has to be like, stop holding your arm that way. Because I was grabbing onto the chair and tightening my arm up. And I was like, but I need to hold on to something. She's like, you're making your arm harder that way. And I was like, if I don't hold this chair, I'm going to grab you. So at any rate, getting back to the baseball situation, look, it is problematic, right? And this is a scenario we all find ourselves in, depending on our lines of work and our communities. And I work at a university, so this is very much at the front of mind of what we do, which is, are we going to require people who are part of our community to be vaccinated? And we have made that decision, by the way. Next year, all of our students must be vaccinated to take classes on campus, which I think I understand why it can be a challenging decision, but I do believe it's the right decision. And I'm very excited that we've taken it. But you understand the challenge.
I don't know, because you have to be vaccinated for a lot of things, to do a lot of things, including go to school.
Let's I don't want to get too into the weeds here. I think once we move past emergency approval of the drugs, this will be a much easier. When you're dealing with organizations, particularly state bureaucratic organizations, there sometimes are legal issues and so forth that you have to weave your way through. I'm sure when we get final, where we're no longer in the emergency approval stage, but the formal approval stage, that wall will come down for most organizations. But we jumped ahead of that. I'm very proud of our university for doing that. That said, look, I am sure that is a consideration. I'm sure this consideration is less about whether a majority of people working in these organizations think it's a good idea, and a lot more about the relationship between the players union and upper management, because that's really where the rubber hits the road here. I am quite certain that the league would be thrilled to be able to say that all players must get vaccinated. And I am like, not knowing this, not being in that room, that's got to be an issue.
Yeah, so I'm not advocating for that. What worries me is that I think if you look at the group of on-field personnel with a Major League Baseball team, to me, that's a very small microcosm of society as a whole. You're essentially going to have in that group probably a percentage breakdown that reflects society at large in terms of who's on the left, who's on the right, who's educated, who's not.
Yeah, but
I think it's going to be pretty close.
The wealth gap is different, though. These are everyone who's in that group is of relative privilege. Not of relative, but they're multi-millionaires.
Everyone there has a very well-paying job, but that does not necessarily. And first of all, no, not all of them are millionaires, league minimum. And most of the players on a roster are making league minimums like $500,000 a year. And now we are not going to sneeze at that. That is an awful lot of money, but it is certainly not generational wealth. And a lot of these players did not come from generational wealth and therefore don't have that mindset. That may be something of a mindset, and it's
but there's certainly, as you suggested, there's a privilege of literally just being able to go to work and have someone like put a shot in your arm. Right. It's easier. My point is, this is actually, I wouldn't even compare this to the general public. There is a lower bar to entry. These are people that have wealth, wherewithal, and so forth. They don't have to worry about what happens when I get the shot, and I might have, I might be a single parent who's financially. There are a lot of things that are easier. So the point is, if we can't get this group to 70%, we got a problem.
Well, that's my concern, because what's going to get us back into stadiums to watch baseball games with 40,000 people is either one, moving to Texas, or two, getting people to get vaccinated. And I'm concerned that if, like you said, if this population that is essentially having all of the barriers removed to getting the vaccine, if 3 in 10 still aren't doing it, what's that going to mean for the population writ large?
So, and I think there's the other question. There's two questions that are going to get raised by this. One is, this is going to put some of these teams and states in a very precarious position. What if the state mandates, if you want, like, as you know, in New York and certain other states, the rule is you have to have one of two things to be able to enter a stadium, which is you got to have your card with a couple of dates on it, or you got to basically get a test that morning, right? If the fans in a stadium are being held to a different standard than the athletes on the field, we got a problem. Like, we have right. And is there going to be a point at which the state of New York or California says your team can come play here, but those 4 players will not be allowed in unless they have their vaccines? And I know this sounds ridiculous, but at some point, look, we're going to hit this on every sector of life. At some point, airlines are going to decide whether they want to lay down the law or not. And it's a business decision. But I think sports are going to get to that. And so maybe that will be part of this process. And there's probably going to be some very difficult conversations between the players union and the owners. Secondly, and I think this is the kind of the soft science of this. I mean, look, a baseball team, professional athletes, and I think we talk a lot about the influence of athletes in our culture and our society. It's basically what I wrote my dissertation on. I don't think we should discount the statement that would be made if professional sports organizations, just as they had around racial justice, kind of rallied and sent a strong message to the public. That same strong message of we're getting vaccinated because it's the right thing to do and it helps us to get back to normal, including this thing, which in many cases sports has been the kind of marker of what normalcy is, right? If they can't do that, I think a lot of us will lose some respect for kind of the messaging and the agency that athletes have long, increasingly, more more recently said they aspire to have. If they're not willing to use this agency for something that is vital for not just American, kind of normalcy, but global normalcy, I'll be pretty disappointed.
Let's move on to a story involving the world of baseball tangentially that is truly important, Keith. That is really, really important. And that is the fact that Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez were spotted together having dinner at a restaurant in Los Angeles. That is the same restaurant, Keith, the same restaurant where they had their first date. Now, ARod and J-Lo they've been going through some rough times. They recently called off their engagement a few weeks ago. But if you're rooting for these two crazy kids to make it, this is a good week for you.
Yeah. So look, there's very few more power moves at this particular moment in time than to show up at a restaurant together, right? I mean, look, restaurants are under a microscope as it is, right? It's a fairly exclusive club now that's eating in restaurants. It's reduced capacity. We are starting to open up more and more. So clearly, just having a celebrity eat in a restaurant in itself is a power move. The two of them together, walking through, parting the waters, walking through that door together and sitting down and breaking bread, which I assume you both and I, it's either a lobster for two or it's a Chateaubriand for two, which is the obvious logical move, right? So where they're sharing a large steak together, which I think is how you envision this, and maybe a bananas Foster for dessert. I don't know.
Like a bananas Foster, but it's prepared tableside and they flambe it in the thing. Oh, that's good.
So I mean, because it's also the show. I mean, we're putting on a show here. Like this is not a meal. This is a show.
It's the classy man's fajitas.
It's the next generation of Benihana. We know that. By the way, sidebar. I'm going to say something that you're probably going to take umbrage to, but I'm going to stick by it. Benihana's, the hibachi restaurant.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar.
Underrated.
You know what? I'm not going to take umbrage with that. No, I'm not. Now, look, me personally, I would like to support my local non-chain hibachi restaurant.
Whatever, yes, of course.
However, hibachi as a concept, I'm for it.
It's been a couple of years, and before that, it had been many years. And I expected. We actually had at that point we had an au pair when I was driving and commuting all this, and so we were like, this would be a fun.
I love how this is episode 55. Every episode, Keith gets a little less relatable.
It's true. A little bit less likable every. So, and I do it to myself. I do it to no one asked.
So you had an au pair watching the kids.
But don't worry.
Your butler let you into the town car, and then your driver took you to the hibachi restaurant.
Then
what happened?
This lacrosse version will definitely make us more relatable.
Now, did you let Benson the driver dine with you, or did he have to stay in the car reading the newspaper?
No, we drove, and I know. Let's get real with this. I was driving a Ford Focus that I don't know if you remember the story. The radio would explode every 20 minutes. I bought this used Ford Focus because I was commuting a lot, and I gave the au pair kind of the nicer car, right? And which was not all that nice. I mean, so let's not overstate this. But regardless, so we decided this would be kind of an American experience. We go to an American
experience by going to the Japanese restaurant. It's a true melting pot we got here.
So we went, and I was like, you know what? This is pretty good. Like, it's fun. The food is what the food is. And as a vegetarian, obviously, I'm a lot more limited, but they'll do tofu. They do a whole bunch of vegetables. It's not bad. It's a good thing. So that it would have been way cooler if those two went to a hibachi restaurant and they sat them at a table with other normal people, like celebrating their kids' like 7th birthday.
Well, and that's the difficult question at a hibachi restaurant. Do you enjoy going when you have the entire hibachi to yourself, right? When it's just all a group of people that you know and you can feel a little more free? Or look, it's a crapshoot when you sit at a hibachi table. Maybe it's just you and a dining companion, and there's 6 other people there. You don't know what you're getting into. Like, that is a big effect on your experience. But some people also like that. They're like, hey, this is risky. Like, I got my adrenaline's pumping.
I think it really depends what you're in for. Look, I'll put it this way. If you're there for a celebration, I think you want to have your team. You want to have your team. But if it's just a night out, I think you gotta go for it. I think there's something about it because you just don't know and everyone look, it's like a karaoke machine. Once that grill starts to, sizzle up and they drop the water on it, everyone, the inhibitions, they go down.
I mean, you're getting ready. Everybody's getting ready for the onion volcano. They're getting ready for the pee-pee man. They're getting ready to have the sake squirted in their mouth. They're getting ready for the shrimp flip. Like, look, there's a bit of shared anticipation there. But here's what, like, one of my favorite things to do on a date at a restaurant is I like to, when the conversation hits a lull, I like to make fun of the other people in the restaurant. And you and your date, you sort of band together against the room. And you're like, what do you think those people are doing? What do you think those people are doing? Oh my God, can you believe they ordered the fajitas? Yeah. And it's so showy. It's like a Bananas Foster as an entree.
but by the way, I'm the unlikable one though. I'm the unlikable one. You go to restaurants to make fun of people and I'm the unlikable one.
Because I don't do it to their face. There's no harm there. There's no harm.
Oh, that's better.
I like them as people. I'm just making them a foible. It's not their I don't actually know them.
By the way, when is the last time you've been on a date in a restaurant?
Prior to the pandemic. So I actually almost remember the exact date. It was last February.
And who was that date with?
Someone who lives in pandemic ravaged New York City before that became closed to us all like I Am Legend.
And what is the current status of that relationship?
Over.
Not a lot of subtlety. It's just over. And so, all right. So let's circle back to the big story.
What was the point of that?
To put your public life on sad display. That's what
There's nothing sad about that. It's just how it happened. She lived in Manhattan. I live up the river. A pandemic occurred. And so it didn't really work out.
That was your opportunity to have the pandemic. You could have coupled.
That's actually why it stopped happening. Because there was a discussion about that. And one party wasn't into it. You can guess which end that was.
You tried.
Someone wanted to escape from New York, and others were like, "We can't take that risk."
Yeah. So, all right. So, in terms of ARod and JLo, I think what we really need to understand here is how brilliant this power move was. Though it was 100%. I don't know that I've ever seen more of an all eyes on me moment. Look, ARod has established himself as a central figure in American culture. And I think we all recognize that when he became a member of Shark Tank. Once he got on Shark Tank, and I don't know if you've noticed, I've been watching a lot of Shark Tank basically every night. I mean, the not so secret alliance between he and Mark Cuban, where they are basically business partners at this point. I mean, they go in almost universally together. He has absolutely made himself a critical part of American popular culture and industry. This really, and it's interesting. He's referenced JLo on, in fact, when he was considering investing in a cookie company, he mentioned that JLo likes that. He didn't even say her name. He goes, well, I know maybe he did. He referred to her as Jennifer. That's where you felt like Jennifer likes to have a cookie every night before she goes to bed, taking us a little bit inside that relationship. So all of this, I think you have to wonder, do they really love each other? Or is this simply a business proposition? Is he simply decide? Is this a Shark Tank deal? Is he in because it's good business?
Well, and look, they do have some business dealings intertwined. So it's possible that this dinner at, keep in mind, the same restaurant they had their first date, could have been a business meeting. It's possible. But look, you don't have a business meeting you don't do that. You don't do that. You don't think so. But I mean, I don't know if I can pick out two more people in this world that like attention more than these two. Oh, certainly Alex Rodriguez. He's done magazine photo shoots making out with himself in a mirror.
Who would you like to have dinner more with, ARod or JLo?
That's an interesting question.
It's a good question.
It is a good question. Probably J-Lo. I think other people would think that's cooler.
So you're just doing it just for the vanity to be able to tell people you had dinner.
Yes, that's why celebrities exist.
What couple would you want to have dinner with more than any couple in the world?
Ooh,
that's a good one.
Question.
That's a great
question. Because this can go
there's two ways to go about this. One is I pick my number one person and let the partner tag along, right? Because I just want to have that. Or you literally find like the royal couple, if that's your thing. Sure. Like you find.
An easy answer is like Barack and Michelle Obama. Like
well, of course, that's the number one answer. But that's an easy answer. I think that may not be the number one because you might feel stupid when you leave that. Like I would feel so insignificant after I left that dinner. I'd be like, well, this week I taped an episode of Sportish.
And I do think the couple's dinner, right? That is an entree into adult friendship. That's how you make friends as an adult. So the real question is what couple do you want to be couples friends with? And I think I would go with fellow Hudson Valley residents, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively.
It's not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice because they are very much a gateway to so much. That's an interesting. You really have two avenues on this, three avenues. You go music, you go Hollywood, or you go sports. Those are, you can go politics, but politics is dirty. I don't know that I want to be in that world. So I think those are your three avenues. All right, I'm going to go. What about Gwen Stefani and Blake? What's his name?
Such a good choice. You don't even know all four names in the couple. Blake Shelton is who you're thinking of.
Shelton.
The reason that I don't pick them is because people like you have no idea who he is.
But I want them to throw in Gavin, the husband, from Bush.
Gavin Rossdale from Bush. You didn't know his last name either.
No, but I saw him play once in Moby Open. But because then I'd like to bring up, I believe there was a nanny. Was there a nanny involved in that? Or
I'm not sure. Am
I getting confused with where was a nanny involved with? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. A lot of them.
You're going to need to narrow it down. Exactly.
The guy from Good Will Hunting, but not.
Ben Affleck.
Matt Damon.
Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner.
Yeah. Ben Affleck. We had a nanny situation. I think there was one with Gavin too. I think there's always a nanny. Except of course, we started the show talking about au pairs and.
So is that you're going Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton? That would be your answer?
Well, I just think they'd open up so many doors.
Yes, but any famous people are going to do that. What two famous people are going to have dinner with and be like, well, I can see nothing good happening because of this.
But that's like on Shark Tank when they're like, yeah, but they know people that work in retail. And it's always, who no one wants? Oh, what's his name? I'm having a name issue tonight. Our tech guy. Not Mr. Wonderful.
Robert.
Robert. They're always
but Robert's great. Everybody likes Robert. He's very likable.
Yeah, but they're always like, yeah, but Lori can get us on QVC. He's like, I can get you on QVC. I can get you. They're like, yeah, but Damon knows the fashion world. He's like, I know the fashion world. He's always having to and literally he'll literally I want this deal now. And Mark Cuban will come and they'll be like, well, Mark Cuban knows a lot of people in industry. And he's like, I'm a billionaire. I think we've killed this segment, but because we're off topic now, and
we never gave an answer.
I just said I want Gwen and Gavin and Blake, and I want to talk about the nanny. I want both couples.
All right, it's time to meet our Lacrosse Sherpa.
I am very excited to bring in the foremost expert in lacrosse, at least according to Jeff and I, the person that's going to hopefully teach us everything we need to know about lacrosse. An old friend of mine. So it just happens to be that I happen to have gone to college with the foremost expert in lacrosse in this country. You, of course, know him as owner of Hit the Net Sports in Acton, Massachusetts. Your one-stop shop for everything lacrosse and net oriented, although I don't believe soccer. Is that true, John? Not soccer.
No, not soccer, no.
So while it is called Hit the Net Sports, it's not everything in a net, like our restaurant concept, Jeff, of course, everything in a helmet, which truly is everything in a helmet. So we wanted to find the foremost expert in lacrosse. I believe we found him. John, welcome to Sportish.
It's great to be here, Keith. You know, you and Geoff are doing a great job. I'm looking forward to understanding what you're looking for here.
Yeah. So now I'm assuming, as someone who's as dialed into the lacrosse world as you are, your phone was probably blowing up with our announcement last week, right? We don't need to go into what happened. You're familiar with the noise that we've made in the lacrosse world?
I am actually. It's legendary. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Just in case there's anyone out there who's not as dialed in as John, what Keith and I are doing are becoming America's next great lacrosse fans. For the Fans, the network that has, for reasons unbeknownst to us, decided to carry this program, also is very much into the lacrosse world through their Lacrosse Sports Network. And you can find them at LSN on YouTube or online broadcasting games, the collegiate level, all throughout the country.
Yeah.
And look, we've said we're a part of this family.
Yeah.
We want to earn our keep, and we want to be lacrosse fans.
And not just the prodigal son. We want to be inside. We want to be inside. Oh, yeah. We want to be the favorite son.
So, John, here's our problem. We don't know where to start. So how do we become lacrosse fans?
Well, watching is the best thing. You have to watch the game. They call it the fastest game on 2 feet. Yeah. And we got to stop you there.
No, stop. You're going to have to write
sports.
No. You're not going to do this, Geoff. You're not going to do this to me, and you're not going to do this to everyone. You're not. This is what you do with everything. Is you don't want to do the work. So that's not wrong. So you're not going to do this. We have brought on potentially the #1 leading lacrosse expert in the country, the owner of Hit the Net Sports. And he has just told us what we need to do. He literally said, this is like if you get the marathon guru and you're like, I want to run a marathon. And he's like, well, you got to start running. And you'd be like, well, that's not for me. You're not going to do this. You're not going to be normal Geoff. John said we got to watch lacrosse, so we're going to watch lacrosse. I don't care if I have to strap some goggles on your face and load it up in there. You're going to watch lacrosse.
Does John know that we're only halfway through this season of Below Deck Sailing Yacht? I don't have a ton of time.
We're going to watch lacrosse, so don't ruin this for me. Don't ruin this for me.
All right, so we're going to watch lacrosse on, of course, LSN, the only place to watch lacrosse. Yeah. If you're watching lacrosse anywhere else, stop watching that lacrosse and watch whatever lacrosse is on LSN. What should we be watching for?
Well, you should be watching. The playoffs are upcoming soon, for the NCAA tournament. They start in a couple of weeks. First, they have their conference tourneys, and then they have their actual tourneys. And it's really exciting. It's I would argue as exciting as the NCAA basketball tournament.
Now, interesting, John. Now, a couple questions here. First off, and this was something that came up last week on the show, is lacrosse played in halves, quarters, or thirds?
Oh, that's an important question. It's played in quarters.
All right, I got that wrong. All right, so that's good to know.
Most things in lacrosse are like basketball. So basketball is a good.
All right, so let's start with that. Geoff, you have a strong working knowledge of basketball. The other thing now, you mentioned the playoffs here. I'm assuming that the lowest tier teams in lacrosse will be relegated to Division II or Division III. Is that correct?
No, that's not quite the way they work. They stay Division I, even if they're really not very good. Okay. In fact, this is a year because for once, in as long as we can remember, Division III teams played Division I teams because of COVID.
Is that so? Excuse me. Is that so they can spread the COVID across divisions?
No, it had something to do with proximity to their so they're not traveling far. That was
all right, Geoff. Do you have any questions before we have the big ask? Of course, the big ask.
I'm a little concerned, Keith, because I didn't tell you this because I didn't want to seem disingenuous. I was only in this to start the Lacrosse Super League. It seemed to go so well for the people in Europe that I saw a golden opportunity where we could do that in America. Now, John is telling me that there's no promotion relegation in lacrosse, and well, that gives me pause.
Well, I just think let's be clear. I think we should focus our kind of ownership energy back on our first sports ownership love, which is us being the bad boys of drone racing. So let's say let's sideline that. Let's focus on fandom. So, John,
are there any drones in lacrosse?
There are not any drones, not that I've seen.
Yeah.
It's a human sport then, a sport played by humans. Interesting. We're learning a lot.
Well, here's my other question, and then we'll get to the big ask. Some of the players have short sticks, and some of the players have long sticks. Could you illuminate? Is it a height? Is this kind of like when you go to putt golfing and they put the club up to your hip and they decide if you get the yellow, the green, or the blue one?
No. The short sticks are easier to use offensively, while the long sticks give you advantage on defense. So you're allowed to have up to 4 long sticks on the field at any one time.
Go ahead, Keith. You're up. See, John, this is what I have to deal with on a weekly basis.
I'm seeing that.
To host a television show with a child.
You knew I wasn't going to be able to talk, and so you did that.
We'll wait.
I think I've gotten a general framework of how the game is played. So here's our question. Our question, John. Will you be willing to be our lacrosse? Because I've learned a lot today. Will you be willing to be our lacrosse Sherpa throughout this year-long journey, which, as we've said, will end at us at the NCAA championships a full year from now, hopefully calling the games? Are you willing to take on that responsibility?
Given your laughter, I'm going to have to think about it. But here's my thought. I need to see that you're both committed, that you're really going to learn.
That's fair.
So I'm going to give you an assignment, certainly for this week, maybe every week. I'll give you an assignment that you need to become ready for.
Okay.
And there'll be important topics that you need to know.
All right. Is there something that you want us to do before next week? And of course, just by the way, if you do find yourself at Hit the Net Sports in the next 7 days, just tell them that Keith and Geoff sent you from Sportish. But is there anything you'd like us to do for next week?
Well, tell you what I'll do for you. You have to do for me is the first assignment is you have to tell me, how does the game start off? Like, how do they start? Is it a jump ball? How does the start of the game go? And
I think we can do that.
After every goal, how does the game go?
Okay.
All right.
Our journey begins.
All right. John, thank you so much. Look, yeah, I think so far I've learned a lot. I feel like I just had a master class. So we certainly hope you're gonna stick around for this voyage, which I'm sure you'll fall in love with lacrosse all over again. And so I'm very excited about it. Geoff?
I'm excited to get started. I really am. It's time to learn, and it's time to begin this journey together.
All right, John. Well, thanks a lot. We'll hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see you again next week with some answers.
All right. Fantastic, Keith. Fantastic, Geoff. See you.
All right, Keith, I think just to be clear, now that our Sherpa, John Raguin, is out of earshot, you're going to do most of the work, and then I'm going to get half the credit, right? We've agreed that's how this is going to go.
Sure, you're leaning on the Ivy Leaguer, and you are going to take advantage of my work ethic and my intellect. No, if we're going to do this, we are going to do this together. We are going to absolutely. And next time John comes up, you're not going to give him any lip like you did this time. You are going to listen. We have asked for his services. We're hoping to get the friends and family discount at Hit the Net Sports, which you can buy anything for a net other than a soccer ball. And go ahead. So we've got, and I'm, by the way, you know what? When we come on next week and John asks for the answer, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to wait for you to say it to see if you've actually done the work.
Well, turnabout would be fair play when I waited for you to have the laughing fit when you couldn't handle it about the pole length. So, I mean, I guess, me reaping and me sowing, totally different feeling. Speaking of reaping what you sow, if you work hard in life, you can enjoy nice things, like perhaps a luxury experience at a sporting event. And the Barclays Center in Brooklyn is taking that to a whole new level. They are aiming to create the finest culinary and lounge experience, not just in sports, but anywhere in that facility. 5-star food, impeccable decorating, the right crowd, the right music, the right ambiance. And by the way, if you're into that sort of thing, a sporting event as well. Keith, I know you're someone who's had access to a number of these experiences that most of us in the real world just would never dream of being able to experience. How do you feel about this new one at the Barclays Center?
I'm looking forward to being there soon. So, by the way, that is an exaggeration. Geoff is strongly exaggerating the amount of time I've spent in the luxury quarters of a stadium.
If I may,
it's below 50%.
Quick Sportish show of hands. How many of the hosts of the show have ever taken a private jet to a sporting event?
No, just me. That wasn't it was to a trip, and there was a sporting event on the trip. The private jet was on a trip. All right. It wasn't my jet, by the way. If you get invited, let me tell you what, there are few truisms in life, few rules, right? We live in America. As we illuminated at the front of the show, no one has to do anything anymore, apparently. If someone asks you if you want to go on a private jet, you say yes. You don't ask where, you don't ask why. You get on the jet. By the way, just disclaimer, that's probably awful advice.
I was going to say, there are some businessmen in some other countries that would really, really like to talk to you.
The views reflected by the host do not reflect those of FDF. So, all right. So, now there are a couple of places in this world, now that you kind of brought this semi-full circle, there are a couple of places in this world where there are opportunities for these incredible luxury experiences where you wouldn't expect them. And I think the two most pronounced are two we just talked of: a stadium and an airplane, right? Because there's nothing more luxurious than walking onto an airplane and be like, "So long, suckers," to the rest of the plane, and jumping up to the upstairs cabin and laying down and stretching yourself out while someone brings you a Bloody Mary, right? And so and speaks to you by name, like, "Hello, Mr. Strudler, would you like something to drink?" Right? How about some warm nuts, right? And right? But this is true. The challenge with both of those experiences, because they certainly are, like, you feel like you've cheated life when you are in a luxury box at a stadium or, stretched out. You feel like you look out at everyone else and you feel like you've cheated life. The challenge is the expense for what amounts to the same utilitarian value. Like, everyone's getting off the plane in London. Like, everyone is, right? Whether you flew in the top of the plane or the back of the plane, you're all getting off in London. And at some point, you're going to turn around and be like, "Well, I just spent $8,000 for that trip. And that guy went on Hotwire and he spent $274. And that's all there was." The challenge, this is why, by the way, you never buy luxury seats. Like, you never pay your way into that. And I don't think it's possible anyway. It's all corporate anyway. You only go to these experiences when you go for free, right? That's it. The access must come for free. But the challenge is when you go to, like, I'm speaking for the Sportish team, we'd be happy to accept the invitation to be one of some of the first media folks to experience this. And of course, we'll give it a positive 5-star review, right? 5-star review. And we'll go, so count us in, regardless of what we say, count us in, we'll be there, right?
Yeah. I mean, our opinions are for sale. If you want us to say your thing is great, just treat us right, and we'll do that. That's not, however, Keith, always the case. They unearthed this week a negative review of the movie Citizen Kane. This was written about maybe 80 some odd years ago from a newspaper in Chicago. They said that they didn't care for that film, Citizen Kane. And now the website Rotten Tomatoes, which aggregates critical reviews, has knocked down Citizen Kane's previously 100% rating to 99%. And that means, Keith, that there is now a new answer for what is the most critically revered movie of all time. And that movie is, of course, now Paddington 2.
It's interesting because I was assuming it was Paddington 1. I was just assuming
Paddington 2.
So
they got it
you're
right
saying
in the sequel.
Yeah. So what you're saying is Citizen Kane is now the salutatorian, no longer the valedictorian of the movie world, and Paddington 2, which I have never seen. And I'm going to say something I probably should admit out loud. Actually, also never seen Citizen Kane, but I'm not anymore. I heard it stinks. I read the review.
I actually haven't seen Citizen Kane either. And now this review that I read from these folks in Chicago is giving me pause.
Yeah, I was literally it's in my Netflix queue. It was up next. And so now I'm not going to be able to watch it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Now, Paddington 2 is a film about a bear, right? A talking bear,
Mm-hmm.
a talking, not a real bear, but a stuffed bear.
An animated bear.
Is it animated or is it a stuffed bear?
So it's an animated stuffed bear. It's not like Ted. You're thinking of Ted, where the stuffed bear is in the live action world. It's not like that.
So it's not like a Chuck E. Cheese situation where you got the big dancing bear, like singing with, So it's not like a trip to Stu Leonard's, right? And so, all right, so it's an animated bear, right? And
I'd actually like to point out at this time, I'm actually no longer 100% certain that is true. I too haven't seen Paddington 2. So if indeed Paddington does take place in the real world, I apologize. Don't tweet at me.
It has to. It's a British bear, right? It's a British bear. I feel like they're always on like one of those double-decker buses, and they're like, Big Ben Parliament, right? That's the whole story.
The bear is on the Griswold's family vacation.
Yeah. You knew. So you haven't seen Citizen Kane, but you have seen European Vacation, because Big Ben Parliament is literally only known, when you repeat those in succession, are only known by the people who have watched them drive around that circle.
I see only the finest in cinema.
Big Ben Parliament. Big Ben. That, by the way, I think that National Lampoon's Vacation is brilliant. I thought European Vacation is awful. It's awful. Comparatively.
Vacation's good. I liked European Vacation. I really liked Vegas Vacation.
No,
I think they're good. I like them.
It's only the original. I don't know why they call it Hamburger Helper. It does just fine by itself.
I think you should revisit Vegas Vacation. Vegas Vacation is better than you may remember.
And it's fine, but it was the original. The original was so great.
Well, look, none of them hold a candle to Paddington 2 now, which is the finest film ever created.
Right. So I assume, I look at someone who is the director of a large school of communication and media that has a significant and well-known film program. I'm assuming we're going to have some curricular discussions probably starting tomorrow, because it seems like there's a new sheriff in town. We're going to have to revise the canon, I suppose. So it is big news. It's big news for me. And I'll put this in my Netflix queue as well.
It's all the time we've got for this episode of Sportish. We want to thank our new Sherpa through our journey to become lacrosse fans. John Raguin, you'll be seeing more of him in the future. And don't forget to check us out on LSN. You can also check us out on ftfnext.com, where you can get archived episode of Sportish. You can check us out on YouTube. And you can check us out.
YouTube. You got to watch it on YouTube.
Also, you can listen to us in audio form as a podcast wherever podcasts are served. For Dr. Keith Strudler, my name is Geoff Brault. Thanks to our producer, Mike Wallace. We hope you'll join us next week here on FTF for another edition of Sportish. Will we learn how a lacrosse game begins? You have to tune back in to find out. See you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.